Welcome back to Z Coins if you're into coin collecting or just curious about the change sitting in your pocket. Today's video is one you're definitely going to want to watch until the very end. We're diving deep into the world of the Roosevelt dime, and more specifically the 1973 Roosevelt one-dime coin. Now on the surface it might just look like your average 10-cent piece. But this little coin has a story to tell, and for some collectors it's worth a whole lot more than its face value. So let's jump into the fascinating history and market value of the 1973 Roosevelt dime and explore why it might be worth far more than just 10 cents. First things first. The Roosevelt dime has been in circulation since 1946. It was introduced to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt shortly after his death in 1945. He was a major figure in American history, particularly during the Great Depression and World War II. But beyond his presidency, Roosevelt also played a key role in founding the March of Dimes, which fought against polio, a cause close to his heart, because he himself was a victim of the disease. Now let's fast forward to 1973. That year, the United States Mint produced the Roosevelt dime at 3 different facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Philadelphia have no mint mark. Denver coins have a small d, and San Francisco coins generally have an S mark and are usually proof coins made for collectors. So what makes the 1973 dime potentially valuable? Well, not all of them are rare, but some specific examples and conditions can make these coins significantly more valuable than face value. Let's break it down. First, the basic composition of a 1973 Roosevelt dime is a clad coin, meaning it's made of copper and nickel. The core is copper and it's covered with a nickel layer, giving it that silvery shine. So it's not silver like earlier dimes minted before 1965. That means the metal itself isn't super valuable, but the numismatic value, the collector value, is where things get interesting. There were over 455 million dimes minted in Philadelphia in 1973, over 455 million more in Denver, and around 2.7 million proof coins struck in San Francisco. That means it's not a low mintage coin, generally speaking. But it's the condition errors and certain varieties that can make a 1973 dime worth far more. Let's talk about condition. In the world of coin collecting, condition is everything. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin without any marks or wear. Coins that are graded MS65 or higher, especially with full bands on the torch on the reverse side, can fetch serious money. Full bands means the lines on the torch are fully struck and not worn or blurred. So a 1973 Roosevelt dime graded MS67 with full bands could sell for over $300. That's right, a dime worth over $300. In fact, at auction, some of these coins have gone for even higher, especially if they are certified by grading companies like PCGS or NGC. Now, what about errors? Errors are where things get really exciting for collectors. Some 1973 Roosevelt dimes have been found with off-center strikes, double dies, and even missing clad layers. These kinds of minting errors can make your average dime worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. For example, a 1973 dime with an off-center strike of more than 50% and no date visible could go for a few $100s. If the date is visible, it could be worth even more. A double die error, where the date or lettering appears doubled because of a mistake during minting, can be worth hundreds depending on its clarity and condition. Another rare but known error is the missing clad layer. This makes the dime look more copper in color and appear thinner. If authenticated, such an error coin can be worth hundreds, and in some cases over $1,000, depending on how complete the error is and what side the clad layer is missing from. Let's not forget about proof coins from San Francisco. These coins were specially made for collectors and usually come with a mirror-like finish. While most of them are worth a few dollars in pristine condition, a perfect proof coin from 1973 graded PR70 DCM, Deep Cameo, could fetch up to $150 or more at auction. So how do you know if you have a valuable 1973 dime? First, look at the mint mark. Check the coin's condition. Use a magnifying glass to inspect the torch lines for full bands. Look for any signs of doubling on the lettering or numbers. And if you suspect you've found something rare, it's always a good idea to get it graded by a professional service. You can also compare your coin to online auction listings and past sales to get an idea of its potential worth. Sites like eBay, Heritage Auctions, and Great Collections have archives of sold coins that show what collectors are willing to pay right now. As of today, the average 1973 Roosevelt dime in circulated condition is worth just face value 10 cents. But in high uncirculated grades, especially with full bands or rare errors, they can be worth anywhere from $20 to $300 and sometimes even more. Error coins with dramatic mistakes can go for thousands, so the next time you get change back from a store, don't overlook that little dime. That seemingly ordinary coin from 1973 could be a hidden treasure. We're diving into one of the most commonly overlooked coins in your pocket change. It's small, silver-colored, and often ignored, but it might just be worth more than you think. We're talking about the 1994 Roosevelt dime. That's right, a 10-cent piece that could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars under the right circumstances. So buckle in as we explore the history, hidden value, and current market worth of this unassuming little coin. Let's start with a bit of background. The Roosevelt dime series was first introduced in 1946, following the death of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. His legacy as the longest-serving president in American history and his close association with the March of Dimes made him a natural choice for the face of the 10-cent coin. Since then, the dime has featured Roosevelt's profile on the obverse, with a torch flanked by an olive branch and oak branch on the reverse. It's a design that has remained mostly unchanged for decades. Now let's fast forward to the year 1994. At the Denver Mint, represented by the D Mint mark, millions of Roosevelt dimes were struck that year. In fact, the total mintage was over 1.2 billion. That's billion with a B. So you might be wondering, with so many made, how could this dime possibly be valuable? Well, here's the key. Not all dimes are created equal. Even among billions of coins, a few stand out for their condition, errors, and rarity. And that's where the 1994 Roosevelt dime becomes interesting for collectors. First, let's talk about the coin's standard value in circulated condition. In typical pocket change condition, most 1994 dimes are only worth face value, 10 cents. That's not surprising given how common they are. But if you find a coin that's uncirculated, meaning it has never been used in commerce and has retained its original mint luster, the value jumps. In mint state grades like MS-65 or higher, the coin can be worth anywhere from $1 to $5. And if you find a truly pristine example in a high mint state like MS-67, collectors have been known to pay $10 to $20 or more for a single dime, but that's still not where the big money comes in. Where it gets really exciting is when you look at error coins. Error coins are mistakes made during the minting process. And in the world of numismatics, the more dramatic the error, the more valuable the coin. Some of the most valuable 1994 Roosevelt dimes are those with striking errors. For example, there are coins with off-center strikes where the design is visibly misaligned. There are also coins struck on the wrong planchet, like if a dime was mistakenly struck on a blank meant for a penny or a foreign coin. These kinds of errors can fetch prices ranging from $50 to several hundred depending on the type and severity. There's also the case of double die errors. That's when the coin shows signs of doubling on the date, lettering, or other parts of the design. While no major double die errors have been officially confirmed for the 1994 dime, some collectors claim to have examples with strong doubling. If verified, these could become high-value coins worth hundreds. Then there's the full torch or full bands designation. This refers to the reverse side of the coin, specifically the torch. If the horizontal bands on the torch are fully defined with no wear or weakness, the coin can qualify for a special grading designation. In high mint state grades with full bands, a 1994 dime can fetch significant premiums, sometimes exceeding $100 or more at auction. So what should you be looking for if you come across a 1994 Roosevelt dime in your change or coin collection? First, check the overall condition. The shinier and more flawless it looks, the better. Next, look closely at the mint mark. It should have a clear D for Denver. Then, inspect both sides of the coin for any signs of unusual features. Is the design off-center? Are there doubling effects on the numbers or letters? Does the torch on the back show strong band detail? If you think you've found something special, your next step should be to get the coin graded by a reputable third-party grading service like PCGS or NGC. A professional grade can dramatically boost a coin's market value, especially if it receives a high mint state rating or earns a special error designation. Now let's talk about the current market value. As of now, in 2025, average uncirculated examples of the 1994 dime sell for between $1 and $10. Mint state 66 or higher coins can go for $20 to $30. Full torch examples can reach over $100. Rare error coins have sold in the range of $200 to $500 depending on type. And in the rarest cases, high-grade error coins can bring in over $1,000 from dedicated collectors, but it's important to note that prices fluctuate. The coin market is influenced by demand, collector trends, and economic conditions. Some years see a surge in dime collecting. Others see values hold steady or dip, but the bottom line is this. A 10-cent coin from 1994 with the right traits can be worth a whole lot more than 10 cents. So the next time you go through your pocket change, don't overlook the dimes, especially the ones with a D mint mark from 1994. You never know. You might be holding a small fortune in your hand. That's the thrill of coin collecting. Ordinary coins can turn out to be extraordinary treasures. If you've ever found a 1998 Roosevelt dime in your pocket change and thought it was just another ordinary coin, you might want to take a second look. Because today we're diving deep into the 1998 D Roosevelt dime. That's the one minted in Denver, and trust me, some of these coins can be worth way more than 10 cents. We'll talk about the coin's history, how to identify valuable varieties, what collectors are paying for rare examples, and how much the 1998 D dime is worth in today's market. So grab your magnifying glass, get comfortable, and let's get into it. First, a bit of history. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946, the year after President Franklin D. Roosevelt died. It was a tribute to his leadership during the Great Depression and World War II, but also to honor his connection to the March of Dimes campaign, which helped fight polio. His image replaced the winged Liberty head dime, commonly called the Mercury dime, and ever since then, Roosevelt's face has remained on the dime for decades. Now let's fast forward to 1998. That year, the United States Mint produced over 1.2 billion Roosevelt dimes. Yes, billion with a B. The Denver Mint alone struck over 1 billion of these coins. So, on the surface, the 1998 D Roosevelt dime is an extremely common coin. It was struck in copper-nickel clad composition, which is a copper core with a nickel coating. These coins weigh 2.27 grams and measure 17.91 millimeters in diameter. You've probably handled hundreds of these without giving them a second thought. But here's where things get interesting. Even though the 1998 D Roosevelt dime is generally common, certain examples, especially in pristine condition or with rare mint errors, can be worth big money to collectors. That's right. There are rare gems hiding in this massive production run. Let's start with condition. In the coin collecting world, condition is everything. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale, which runs from 1 to 70. A grade of MS, or mint state, means the coin was never circulated and has no signs of wear. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin becomes. For example, a 1998 D Roosevelt dime in average circulated condition is only worth face value, just 10 cents. But a coin in mint state 65 or higher can be worth several dollars. And if you're lucky enough to have a coin graded MS 68, that value can shoot up to over $100 or more, depending on the market. Now let's talk about errors, the real treasure hunt. Error coins are mistakes made during the minting process, and collectors go wild for them. With the 1998 D Roosevelt dime, there are a few known errors that are especially valuable. One of the most popular types of errors is the off-center strike. That happens when the coin isn't properly aligned during the strike, and part of the design is missing or shifted. A 1998 D dime struck off-center by 20% or more can be worth $50 to a few $100 depending on how dramatic the error is. Another valuable error is the broad strike. This occurs when the coin is struck without the collar that normally keeps it in shape, causing it to spread out and appear wider than usual. A broad-struck 1998 D dime can sell for anywhere from $20 to $100 or more, depending on condition. Then there are double die errors. These happen when the die used to strike the coin has a doubled image, which results in a coin that shows a shadow or doubling effect, especially noticeable on the lettering or numbers. While there are no major documented double die varieties for the 1998 D dime, that doesn't mean one won't surface. Always keep your eyes open and check every coin closely. Clipped planchets are another error to watch for. That's when the blank used to strike the coin is incomplete or missing a section. A clipped planchet 1998 D dime can easily bring $20 to $75 or more depending on how dramatic the clip is. So what are collectors actually paying today for these coins? Let's break down the current market value. As of now, in 2025, a standard circulated 1998 D Roosevelt dime is worth its face value of 10 cents. But if you have an uncirculated example, especially one graded by a professional grading company like PCGS or NGC, you're looking at a range of $3 to $10 for MS63 to 65 grades. Once you get to MS66 or higher, the value goes up significantly. An MS67 example might fetch $40 to $70, and MS68 dimes have been known to sell for over $150 depending on eye appeal, luster, and demand. If you add in mint errors, the price can go even higher. A dramatic off-center or broad strike error could sell for a few $100s. Coins with multiple errors or in top condition with strong visual appeal are often sold at auctions for premium prices. So what does this mean for you? It means that the next time you're going through your spare change or checking your coin jar, don't skip over those Roosevelt dimes. Look for the date. Flip the coin and see if there's a D-mint mark on the reverse, just to the left of the torch. Examine the coin under a magnifying glass. Check for sharp details, shiny surfaces, and any signs of mint errors. And if you think you've found something special, consider getting it professionally graded. While grading does come with a fee, it can greatly increase the value and sale potential of your coin, especially if it's in near-perfect condition or features a clear and collectible mint error. To recap, the 1998 D Roosevelt dime is a common coin, but like many coins, rarity and value are in the details. High-grade examples and mint errors are where the money is. Most are worth just 10 cents, but the best of the best can be worth hundreds. So be vigilant, be curious, and don't dismiss even the most ordinary-looking coins. Some of the greatest coin discoveries started with someone asking, "Is this worth anything?" We're diving deep into one of the most iconic and frequently circulated coins in American history, the Roosevelt dime. But not just any Roosevelt dime. We're going to focus specifically on the 2003 D Roosevelt dime. That's right, the Denver minted dime from the year 2003. Now at first glance, this coin might just look like your average everyday change, something you'd hand over at a vending machine or drop into a tip jar without thinking twice. But as with so many things in the world of coin collecting, there's a lot more going on beneath the surface. So stay tuned, because by the end of this video you'll know all about the fascinating history behind the Roosevelt dime, how the 2003 D fits into the broader picture, and most importantly what it might be worth today and why some of these little coins are turning heads in the numismatic market and fetching far more than their 10-cent face value. Let's start with the backstory. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946, shortly after the death of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He had been a pivotal figure in American history, leading the nation through both the Great Depression and World War II. But he was also a key advocate for the March of Dimes, a campaign launched to fight polio, the disease that had afflicted him since the 1920s. So it was fitting that after his death, the U.S. Mint replaced the Mercury dime with a coin bearing his image. The obverse of the Roosevelt dime features a left-facing portrait of the president, while the reverse shows a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. Fast forward to 2003. That year, the United States Mint produced Roosevelt dimes at two locations, Philadelphia and Denver. The Denver minted coins carry a small D mint mark on the obverse, just to the left of the torch. Over 449 million dimes were struck at the Denver Mint in 2003, which might sound like a huge number. And it is. That's why most 2003 D Roosevelt dimes are still worth exactly 10 cents in circulated condition. However, and this is important, not all coins are created equal. Some 2003 D Roosevelt dimes have quirks, varieties, or errors that can make them worth many times their face value, even hundreds or thousands of dollars in rare cases. So let's talk about what makes certain 2003 D Roosevelt dimes stand out. First and foremost, condition matters. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS60 is considered mint state, uncirculated, but MS65 and higher is where collectors really start to pay attention. If you happen to find a 2003 D Roosevelt dime in pristine, untouched condition, no scratches, no dings, full luster and sharp details, you could be looking at a coin worth far more than 10 cents. In fact, certified MS67 examples have sold at auction for between $15 and $50, and in some cases even higher if the coin has exceptional eye appeal. But it's not just about condition. Some 2003 D Roosevelt dimes feature rare die errors or varieties. These are the real treasures that collectors chase. One well-known type of error is the double die. That's when the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly during production, causing parts of the design to appear doubled. Imagine seeing a second set of letters or numbers faintly overlaying the original ones. That's a double die, and collectors love them. If you find a 2003 D Roosevelt dime with doubling on the motto, "In God We Trust," the date, or Liberty, that could be a sign of a double die. Such an error could easily raise the value of the coin to $100 or more depending on the clarity of the doubling and the coin's condition. Another possibility is an off-center strike, where the coin wasn't properly aligned during the minting process. If a significant portion of the design is missing or shifted off to the side, it's called an off-center error. These are often worth between $10 and $150 depending on how far off the strike is and how much of the design remains visible. Then there are broad strikes, which occur when the coin is struck without a retaining collar. The result is a slightly larger and flatter dime that's visibly different from a regular one. Even small errors like die cracks, filled dies, or missing clad layers can make a common coin valuable. Some missing clad layer dimes have sold for $200 or more. But how do you know if your coin is worth anything? First, take a look with a magnifying glass. Check the date, the mint mark, the edges, and the overall detail. Compare it to other dimes in your collection or even images of known errors online. If something looks unusual, it's worth taking it to a professional coin dealer or sending it in for grading and authentication by a service like PCGS or NGC. Grading does cost money, but it can be a good investment if the coin is truly rare or valuable. As of 2025, the current market value for a regular 2003 D Roosevelt dime in circulated condition is still about 10 cents. But if you find one in mint state, especially MS66 or higher, you might be able to sell it for between $5 and $25. A certified MS68 example can sell for $100 or more depending on demand and the presence of any unique features. If you're lucky enough to have a verified error coin, especially something dramatic like a double die or major off-center strike, the sky is the limit. Some rare examples have reached auction prices of $300 to $500 or more. It's also worth noting that coin values fluctuate based on collector interest, metal prices, and even trends in the hobby. So a 2003 D Roosevelt dime that's worth $50 today might be worth more or less in the future. Staying up to date by checking auction results and price guides can help you understand when to buy, sell, or hold. To wrap it all up, the 2003 D Roosevelt dime is a modern coin with a humble appearance but some hidden surprises. While most are worth only face value, coins in excellent condition or with unique errors can be quite valuable. So next time you get change at the store, don't just toss those dimes into a jar without looking. You might be holding a small piece of numismatic history that's worth much more than it seems. We're diving into a coin that most people overlook, but some collectors are cashing in big on. That's right, we're talking about the 2005 P Roosevelt dime. At first glance, it might just look like any other 10-cent coin you find in your pocket change, but believe it or not, some of these dimes are worth far more than 10 cents. In fact, depending on the condition, mint errors, and collector demand, this small coin could be worth real money. So stay tuned as we uncover the history, the hidden value, and what makes the 2005 P Roosevelt dime so special in the world of coin collecting. Let's start with the basics. The Roosevelt dime has been in circulation since 1946. It was created to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who passed away in 1945. Roosevelt was a strong advocate for the March of Dimes, a campaign to fight polio, and the dime was chosen as a tribute to his legacy. The design features Roosevelt's profile on the obverse and a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch on the reverse. This symbolizes liberty, peace, and strength. Now let's talk about the 2005 version specifically. The 2005 P Roosevelt dime was minted in Philadelphia, which is indicated by the small letter P on the coin. In total, over 1 billion of these coins were produced, which might make you think there's nothing rare about them. And for most examples, that's true. If it's worn from circulation and has no unusual features, it's likely only worth its face value of 10 cents. But that's not the full story. Some of these coins were struck with mint errors, and this is where things get exciting. Collectors and dealers have found 2005 P dimes with misstrikes, off-center strikes, double dies, and even coins missing the clad layer. One of the most desirable errors is a missing clad layer on either the obverse or reverse. This means that part of the coin looks copper-colored instead of the usual silver tone. These errors can happen when the layers of metal used to make the coin fail to bond correctly. A missing clad layer error can easily fetch between $50 and several $100s. Depending on its condition, another error to look out for is an off-center strike. This happens when the coin isn't properly aligned during minting, causing the design to be shifted away from the center. If the date and mint mark are still visible, these can be worth over $100 or more. The more dramatic the error, the more valuable the coin. But even without errors, some 2005p Roosevelt dimes are valuable due to their condition alone. Coins that have never been in circulation and are graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC can sell for good money. A 2005p dime graded MS68, which is a very high mint state grade, has sold for over $100 at auction. In rare cases, coins graded MS69 can bring in even more, although they are extremely rare. Let's take a closer look at what MS means. MS stands for mint state, and it refers to coins that haven't been used in everyday commerce. The grading scale goes from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin with no flaws visible under magnification. Most coins you find in circulation are well below MS60, but if you have a 2005p dime that looks perfect with no scratches or wear, it could be worth sending in for grading. Now let's talk about the current market. As of this year, high-grade 2005p Roosevelt dimes are still actively bought and sold by collectors. On popular auction sites and coin marketplaces, we're seeing coins with errors or high mint state grades selling for anywhere from $50 to $200. The demand is steady, and prices can go even higher if you have a particularly rare error or a top population coin. Top population means it's one of the highest graded examples known, which makes it extremely desirable to collectors. So, what should you be looking for in your change jar or coin collection? First, check for the P mint mark, which tells you it's from the Philadelphia Mint. Next, examine both sides of the coin for any signs of misalignment, doubling, or missing metal. Use a magnifying glass or a microscope if you have one. Also look for sharp detail and luster, that shine that uncirculated coins have. If your coin looks like it just came from the mint, it might be worth grading. And here's a bonus tip: always check the edges of the coin. A missing clad layer on the edge can be a clue that something's unusual. If the edge looks coppery instead of silvery, you might have a valuable error coin. So to sum it all up, the 2005p Roosevelt dime might seem like just another coin, but with the right combination of mint errors or high-grade condition, it could be worth far more than 10 cents. Whether it's a missing clad layer, an off-center strike, or just a pristine uncirculated example, these dimes are definitely worth checking out. We are diving deep into the fascinating world of pocket change and shining the spotlight on one very specific coin, the 2006D Roosevelt dime. At first glance, it may look like your everyday dime, but as we're about to uncover, this little 10-cent coin can sometimes be worth much more than face value. In fact, some rare versions of this coin have fetched impressive prices from collectors and auction houses. So if you've got a jar of coins laying around or change from the grocery store, you might want to stick around, because this might just be the video that turns 10 cents into hundreds of dollars. Let's start with the basics. The 2006D Roosevelt dime was minted in Denver, one of the two major mints that produced dimes that year. The Roosevelt dime series has been in continuous production since 1946, following the death of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The dime was chosen to honor Roosevelt because of his role in founding the March of Dimes, an organization that fought polio, a disease Roosevelt himself struggled with for most of his life. Now, the Roosevelt dime design features the portrait of President Roosevelt facing left. The word liberty is inscribed on the left side of the coin, with the motto "In God We Trust" appearing just below the neck. The date and mint mark are located on the lower right. The reverse of the coin features a torch flanked by an olive branch on the left and an oak branch on the right. This design symbolizes liberty, peace, and strength. In 2006, the United States Mint produced hundreds of millions of these coins. In fact, the Denver Mint alone struck over 1.2 billion dimes that year. With such a high mintage, you may be wondering, how can any of these be valuable? The answer lies in condition, rarity, and most importantly, error coins. Let's talk about regular condition first. A standard 2006D Roosevelt dime in circulated condition, meaning it has been used in everyday transactions, is generally worth just its face value, 10 cents. However, if the coin is in uncirculated condition or graded highly by professional coin grading services like PCGS or NGC, the value can rise. Coins graded MS67 or higher are scarcer and can command prices of $5 to $10, sometimes even more. But that's just the beginning. The real excitement comes when we talk about error coins. These are coins that were mistruck, damaged during the minting process, or feature other unique oddities. Collectors love these coins because of their rarity and the unusual stories they tell. Some of the most valuable 2060 Roosevelt dimes are those with dramatic minting errors. For example, one of the most sought-after errors in the 2060 dime series is the missing clad layer error. Dimes are normally composed of a copper core sandwiched between two layers of nickel. When one of these outer layers is missing, the coin looks copper-colored and weighs slightly less than usual. These missing clad layer dimes can be worth anywhere from $50 to a few $100s depending on condition and how complete the error is. Another rare variety is the off-center strike. That's when the coin is not perfectly aligned during the minting process, causing part of the design to be cut off. If the date and mint mark are still visible, these can be very desirable to collectors. Values for off-center dimes range from $20 to well over $100. There are also double die errors, where parts of the coin design appear to be doubled. Though not as common in the 2060 dime series as in some older coins, any verified double die can be worth a good premium. Look closely at the words Liberty or In God We Trust for any signs of doubling. If you find a strong example, it could be worth hundreds. Another interesting case is the die clash error, where the images from the front and back of the coin get imprinted onto each other due to a malfunction in the minting process. These can make coins look like they have ghost images or strange outlines. Depending on how dramatic the clash is, these errors can be highly valuable. Now, you may be asking, how do I find out if my 2060 Roosevelt dime is worth anything? The first step is to inspect the coin carefully. Use a magnifying glass and good lighting. Check for unusual colors, off-center images, doubling of letters or numbers, or any obvious damage that looks like it occurred during minting rather than after. A normal scratch or dent from circulation will not increase the value, but a mint-made error certainly might. If you think you have something special, it's a good idea to consult a professional. You can submit the coin to a grading service, or visit a local coin dealer or coin show to get expert opinions. Be aware that authentication and grading services charge a fee, so you'll want to be reasonably sure that your coin has value before sending it in.as. Of today, in 2025, the general market value of most 2060 Roosevelt dimes remains around face value, unless they are in pristine condition or have one of the rare errors we've just discussed. Uncirculated coins in MS66 condition might bring around $3 to $5, while those in MS67 or MS68 can fetch upwards of $15 to $30. Error coins can vary widely in value, some selling for $50, others for $200, and a few very dramatic examples for even more. Let's not forget that values fluctuate based on demand, rarity, and condition. A dime that sold for $100 last year might go for $150 this year, or drop to $80 if more examples are discovered. That's the fun and challenge of coin collecting. Values can change, new varieties can be found, and treasures can be hidden in plain sight. Before we wrap up, here's a quick tip. Always check your pocket change, especially dimes from the early 2000s. You never know what might be hiding there. And remember, just because a coin is common doesn't mean it's worthless. With the right combination of condition and error, even the most ordinary-looking coin can turn out to be a rare find. So, the next time you get change from the store, take a second and look at those dimes. One of them might be a 2060 Roosevelt dime with a valuable twist. That tiny 10-cent coin could be your ticket to a surprising payday. We are diving into the fascinating world of the Roosevelt dime. But not just any dime, we're talking specifically about the 2014 D Roosevelt one-dime coin. You might think of it as just another ordinary 10-cent piece in your pocket or your change jar. But hold on, because some of these seemingly humble coins have sold for a lot more than just 10 cents. Some have fetched impressive prices on the collector's market, and today we're going to explore WHY. So sit tight and get ready to learn about the history, the design, the mintage, and most importantly, the hidden treasures and errors that could make your 2014 D Roosevelt dime worth a whole lot more than face value. Let's begin with a little background. The Roosevelt dime has been a staple in United States currency since 1946. It was introduced shortly after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, as a way to honor his legacy. Roosevelt was a beloved figure in American history, especially for his leadership during the Great Depression and World War II. But perhaps just as importantly, he was a champion of the March of Dimes, a movement to eradicate polio, the disease that Roosevelt himself battled for much of his life. So when it came time to replace the Mercury dime, Roosevelt was the natural choice. Now, fast forward to the year 2014. This year was not an anniversary year, and there weren't any significant design changes. But it was still a year that saw millions and millions of dimes minted at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Our focus today is on the Denver Mint version, the 2014 D Roosevelt dime. The Denver Mint struck an estimated 1.2 billion of these dimes. That's right, over a billion coins with the small D mint mark under the date. On the surface, that might make you think these coins are too common to be worth anything to collectors. But that's not the full story. Because in the world of coin collecting, value isn't just about rarity in numbers. It's also about condition. It's about errors. And it's about demand. Let's talk about condition first. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a perfect coin with no flaws under magnification. Most dimes you find in circulation today are going to be well below that. They're worn down, scratched up, and far from pristine. But a 2014 D Roosevelt dime in mint state condition, especially those graded MS66 or higher, can fetch a premium from collectors looking to complete their sets with high-quality coins. As of recent sales, MS67 examples have sold for around $15 to $20, and MS68 examples can jump even higher, in some cases bringing in $50 or more. While those might not be life-changing amounts, remember, that's for a single dime that cost you only 10 cents to begin with. But what really gets collectors excited are errors. That's where the big money sometimes lies. One of the most common errors found on Roosevelt dimes, including the 2014 D, is the double die. This happens during the minting process when the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly between impressions, causing elements like the date, lettering, or even Roosevelt's profile to appear doubled. Double die obverse and double die reverse varieties are always in demand. While no major double die varieties are officially recognized for the 2014 D Roosevelt dime, minor doubling may exist and, if found, can boost the coin's value significantly. Then there are off-center strikes, where the coin is not properly aligned during minting, resulting in part of the design being missing. The more off-center the coin is, without losing its date, the more valuable it can be. A 2014 D Roosevelt dime struck 20 or 30% off-center can be worth upwards of $50 to $100, depending on severity and condition. Another collectible error is the die clash. This happens when the coin dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving an imprint of the opposing die on each surface. These types of errors can add unique and fascinating details to a coin, and collectors will pay a premium for them. There are also planchet errors, like clipped planchets, where a portion of the coin is missing due to a flaw in the blank metal disc. A 2014 D dime with a cleanly clipped edge can fetch a good amount depending on how dramatic the clip is and how well preserved the coin remains. Next, we have to mention transitional errors. These are extremely rare, but occasionally a coin is struck using a planchet or design from a different year or metal composition. While no such transitional error has yet been confirmed for the 2014 D Roosevelt dime, strange things do happen at the mint, and that's why collectors keep checking every coin. So what should you do if you find a 2014 D Roosevelt dime in your change? First, check the condition. Does it still have its original luster? Are the details sharp? Are there any scratches or wear on Roosevelt's face or the torch on the reverse? If it looks perfect, you might have a high-grade specimen worth submitting for grading. Next, get out your magnifying glass and check for errors. Look at the lettering. Look at the edges. Check for doubling, off-centering, or any odd marks or anomalies. If you think you've found something, it's always worth showing it to a professional coin dealer or submitting it to a grading service like PCGS or NGC for verification. So, how much is a 2014 D Roosevelt dime really worth? In circulated condition, it's worth 10 cents, just like you'd expect. In uncirculated or mint state condition, you could be looking at $5 to $50, and possibly more if your coin has been graded MS68 or better. If you find a significant error, the value can jump even higher, sometimes into the hundreds of dollars, especially for dramatic or rare minting mistakes. Let's not forget that coins are more than just money. They're tiny time capsules, each one with a story. The 2014 Roosevelt dime might not look like much at first glance, but with a little luck, a sharp eye, and some collector knowledge, you just might find a hidden gem that's worth far more than its face value. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check your change, because the next valuable dime might just be hiding in plain sight. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a hidden treasure or coin collecting tip. Until next time, keep searching, stay curious, and happy collecting.